Good evening. The Plattsburgh Area League of Women Voters welcomes you to an opportunity for you to become more informed about the choices you make in the voting booth on November 5th. The Plattsburgh Area League of Women Voters welcomes you to an opportunity for you to become more informed about the choices you make in the voting booth on November 5th. My name is Betty Ann King, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters and moderator for tonight's event. And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The wards were chosen by lottery for order, and please welcome the candidates Michael Drew and Michael Kelly from Ward 2. And according to the straws that were drawn, Michael Drew will have the first opening statement. So, Michael, your 2-minute opening statement, please.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and for everyone who's in attendance, and particularly the 3 mayoral candidates. I think it's important that they understand the positions of the candidates as they come closer to election. When I first contemplated running again, I've been away for 6 years, and I have to tell you that I'm really excited for the times ahead of Plattsburgh. I think we're facing a bunch of challenges, but with those challenges, I think, come opportunities, and I have a lot of great ideas that I would like to bring forth to the city and to help guide the city along with the new mayor and new council into the future. Thank you.
Michael Kelly.
Okay. I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event tonight. My name is Mike Kelly. I'm running for the city councilor position in Ward 2. Ward 2 is a place where I have lived for the last 10 years, and I will probably live there for the rest of my life. My wife and I love the neighborhood we live in, and we love our neighbors. And my wife, who I have a lot of respect for, and she always gets mad at me for talking about her at events like this, but I'm going to do it once again and suffer the wrath when I get home. She grew up in Ward 2, spent almost her entire life there, and we have a special affinity for the area because of that. That's her home, and my goal always is to make her home and my neighbor's home the safest, most interesting, most fun place to live that it can possibly be. I just want to say that I'm the Democratic candidate for City Council. I'm proud to be a Democrat. I'm also endorsed by the Working Families Party. I'm also very proud to be a member of the Working Families Party. And I really appreciate the support that I get from my fellow Democrats and from the Working Families Party. I want to say one thing to my opponent, Mr. Drew, and that is during the last election in which Mr. Drew ran, he had a bumper sticker called, "I like Mike." So early on, I was a nice guy, and I informed him that, "Mike, you can't use that bumper sticker this time around." So I think he was grateful for that. I think he also knew that. Thank you very much, folks.
And and we will rotate the order. Michael Drew, you will answer this question first, please. And this is the question from the audience. I consider the task of government of the city to be equivalent to running a large and complete business. What skills and history do you have in running a business?
Well, I've been in business for myself for 25 years. I owned and operated, built from the ground up, Lake City Skate on Sharon Avenue. For 13 of those years, put through many of the city's youth, including one of our mayoral candidates. I'm also a school teacher for 6 years, and being a school teacher teaches you a lot about people in general and how to build consensus and how to build relationships. It's a necessity of being a teacher, is building those relationships with students. 6 years on the city council, 5 of those years as the budget officer, Lake City Local Development Corporation. I was on that when we moved the rail yard from the waterfront, giving us the wonderful problem that we have today of what are we going to do with it. Dock Street Landing, that was part of things that I did. I've served on the Recreation Advisory Board, and I think just in general, my overall experience in business and in politics puts me in a unique position to represent Ward 2.
Mike, would you like the question read again?
Yes, please.
I consider the task of governance of the city to be equivalent to running a large and complete business. What skills and history do you have in running a business?
Okay. That's almost a two-part question, so I want to make sure I answer both parts of it. Part one is, what is my experience? I've worked in private industry most of my life, and I've worked for companies as large as 440,000 employees and as small as 50 or less. And I've had a wide variety of experiences that have taught me all sorts of things about mostly how to be flexible and how to listen to other people. Those are the greatest skills that I think I've learned, and those skills have served me well in whatever I do. I majored in psychology back in college, and people always say, well, you're trying to psychoanalyze me. No, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze anybody. I forgot how to do that a long time ago, but what I did learn is that I learned a lot about people, and that people are really different. And if you listen to people, and if you take all points of view into consideration when you're trying to decide what to do, then you stand a better chance of having success. It's only when people work together that things seem to go well. The other thing is that government is not business. Okay, I'll stop.
And Michael Kelly, you will be the first to answer this question, please. What will you be able to provide in the way of negotiating skills to bargain with unions in the city?
Well, I have worked at both sides of the negotiating table as a union member and also as a manager. And again, I think the secret to success with any endeavor like that is to keep an open mind, listen, don't be too judgmental of the people that you're attempting to solve problems with. And make sure that you take all points of view into consideration. Now, I know that's a hot topic here in the city, and we're always looking for ways to be more efficient and to reduce costs. And I'm in favor of that because I'm a taxpayer also. But at the same time, we have to be respectful of the people that we're negotiating with. I personally have never met a city employee who is a slacker. you know, anyone who, you know, is not out there to do their job every day. So we have to keep that in mind as we negotiate. Thank you.
Same question. I think that the number one goal for me with the unions is an open line of communication and respect. And I think the 6 years that I've served there, I've gained that reputation with the unions as being honest and open and forthright with them in all of our dealings. And I think that they would probably tell you the same. I was a member of the Health Insurance Task Force. Let me tell you this, the city workers, they really have a lot on their plates. They've been positions cut, budgets cut, everybody's pulling together, and they're the backbone of our city. They're what we need to provide the essential services. So I think sitting down, not having the daily newspaper articles to say, you know, we're having a big fight, and sitting down and really working out differences, filling my head with knowledge about the situations from both sides of the issue. I'm a union member as a teacher and also was on the council in negotiations that settled many union disputes and contracts. So I think filling my head with knowledge and then really voting with my heart for what's best for the city of Plattsburgh in general.
Thank you. And Michael Drew, you are the first person to answer this question, please. And this is specifically addressed to Ward 2. As a resident of Ward 2, how do you feel about the bike path that was constructed? Positive or negative, and why?
Well, first of all, the bike path started with a grant that I got from Senator Little, so I'm a big supporter of that bike trail, the Saranac River Trail. If you see the number of people on that trail enjoying that, biking, walking, jogging, rollerblading, it's one of those things that help make our quality of life as a city that much better. So I'm 100% in support of it, and I know there was some, when the planning phase went through, there was some issues along the river, which is unfortunate. But in general, the bike path is a good thing, and I'm on it every day. I walk my dog on it every day, and it's a safe place. I don't have to worry about my kids walking there with traffic. It's just one of those great quality of life issues, and I would love to see that hooked together with other ones, especially the north-south route to the town. I think it's just I can't tell you enough about how much of a supporter I am of that bike path.
Thank you. Michael?
I don't have a lot to add except for maybe ditto. I love the bike path too and use it frequently. I do recall that there were some issues with how it was installed, and it met some resistance from the community. And I think if we had it to do over again, the thing we should learn is that involve the community. Make sure that the people who are affected by that project or any other project have a say in how it goes. You know, it turned out okay. It left a lot of hard feelings in the community. And I think if we had handled that a little differently, now this is me talking in hindsight, so please understand that. If we had handled that a little differently, it could have gone a lot smoother, and the neighborhood would have been a lot more accepting of it.
Thank you. And now we come to the part where each of you get to ask your challenger a question. And so, Michael Drew, I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's Michael Kelly. You have the first opportunity to ask a question of Michael Drew.
Okay. I think I'll have to make something up as I go. Michael, you moved into our ward just a few months ago. What makes you think you're qualified to be a city councilor in Ward 2?
Well, I moved into Ward 2 3 years ago, for one thing. And secondly, I've lived on the south end for about 15 years, and I think we've all preached that it's a community. It's not divided by a line. In fact, parts of Ward 2 are now in Ward 1 and vice versa. So I've represented some of the folks that are in 2 already. I understand the issues of the South End as compared to the rest of the city, and if you ask, I think the majority of the voters in the South End, they can tell you that I've stood up for the South End as well as the city as an overall package. I think that without the city thriving, that Ward 2 is not going to thrive, and so my decisions are based on Ward 2 first and citywide secondly, because that's how we're going to thrive as a big community and not by lines drawn on a map somewhere.
And Michael, do you have a question for Michael Kelly?
I do. I've been waiting to ask this question, the absentee ballot issue that is now online at 5:20 this evening. It came to my attention that absentee ballots in our ward went up 514%, and that raised a flag to me. I said, how can that be possible? We didn't build any nursing homes. There's only two really clear ways that the general population is going to have one of those, and that's if you're going to be gone or if you're permanently or temporarily sick or disabled. And with a spike with 500 and some percent, I started looking at those absentee ballots, and in our ward alone, more than 30 of them are college kids living in dorms 23 days before the Thanksgiving break, that on a Tuesday in the middle of a semester, they're somehow going to be absent from the area. And so that raised a flag to me. And so my first move was to go see Mr. Kelly personally and say, hey, we've got an issue here. This is something that should alarm us as people running as lawmakers. We see something like this going on, that's a concern. So my question to Mr. Kelly is your thoughts on that. What do you attribute the 500% spike, and your feelings on I would also like to add your thoughts on why you immediately went to party politics when this is obviously a concern to every party. So my question.
Okay, let me start my answer by apologizing to you. I didn't know you lived in the ward for 3 years, and I based my observation on the fact that you were registered to vote in Ward 1 up until just a few months ago. To answer your question, I had nothing to do with what you're talking about. I really don't know a whole lot about it. It's certainly not me who's doing this absentee voter drive effort. I've heard some things about it. Actually, I heard more about it from you, I think, than anyone, Michael. So I guess you've done your homework on the subject. I would say this: if a person has difficulty getting to the polls for whatever reason, and someone can help them vote, that's a good thing. So the people who are doing this have excellent motives. Maybe the rules will shake out and things won't work out the way they planned, but you can't fault their motives. The more people that vote, the more democracy we have and the more freedom we have. Thank you.
And now it's time for the closing statements. And that would be Michael Kelly, who has the first close.
Well, I was on the city council from 2008 to 2011, and that was one of the most difficult times in the financial history of the city, I think. That was the era that we now call the Great Recession, and we simply didn't have any money to spend. But working together with the 5 other councilors and the mayor, we somehow made it successful. We survived. The city never went into deep financial trouble during that time, and we saw many other municipalities do that. The reason I want to run for city council again is because I love my community. I love my neighbors. I missed the opportunity to help my fellow Ward 2 residents so much during that one term that I took off that I just couldn't wait to get back into the fray this time. And I'm so pleased to have the opportunity again to serve my neighbors. And I would hope that Democratic voters and Working Families Party voters will get out there en masse and send me to City Council because I so want to serve them. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Ward 2 candidates.
Michael, make a closing statement.
Just so you know, I'm a substitute tonight.
It's all good.
And I'm really kind of nervous. But okay.
You're doing a fine job.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, that's the first one slide. That's the guinea pigs. I would just like to go back to that issue one more time, the absentee ballot, that each person, this is right off the Board of Elections website instructions, each person must apply for themselves. It is a felony to make a false statement in an application for an absentee ballot, to attempt to cast an illegal ballot, or to help anyone cast an illegal ballot. Just, that's the first thing. And so I think it is a great thing to get people out to vote. I've personally registered over 100 voters. If you look back to the Ward 1 council race, it was one of the highest turnouts in the history of Ward 1. I think everyone should vote. I would love 100% turnout. The fact remains that we have rules in place. You have an opportunity to stand up and say what's happening here is wrong. People are going door to door to able-bodied, college-age student, residents from housing, and the people that happen to be doing it are aligned with your camp. Even though I've never called party politics, it's come up every time I brought the issue. It doesn't enrage me as a Republican, it enrages me as a taxpayer. I don't want one person carrying 60 votes in their hand when I'm paying taxes on my property and I have a stake in this city. Not that they don't, but traditionally have not voted, and we can just take 60 votes and one person can take those to the ballot box and negate 60 of my neighbors' tax-paying citizens. It should anger every candidate that this is happening. Give them a ride to the poll. Take your flyers out. Put on forums. Get them to come down here. If there's an interest, educate them. But to simply go up and say, sign this, I'll get you a ballot, I'll bring it over to you, and are they filling it out themselves or not, who knows, but it's a concern. And if you don't like the letter of the law, this is what's right and what's wrong. If you don't like the way the system is set up, then speak out against the system, but this is the system we live in and we must operate in, and it's your opportunity that I think you've missed to stand up and say, this is not right for the people of the city of Plattsburgh. Thank you.
And now, Ward 2.
Who knows which ward is the second up? Thank you very much. How about that? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Would you like water too, Joe? Where's Lawson? Sure.
Becky Casper and Bruce Lawson. And the straws that were drawn, Becky Casper has the first opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you. And first, I would like to add my thanks to the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. And not just thanks for that, but for their very historic efforts to really encourage and nurture the democratic process. So I continually applaud you, given that I'm very much interested in having more people come out to vote and be responsible and educated voters. I would like to note that my first name is misspelled on the placard, Becky. But that's not a problem, because I want you to understand that on the ballot it's Rebecca, okay? So keep that in mind. So I'm here to serve. When I considered running for city council in early spring of this past year, I gave it a great deal of thought. I had to weigh a lot of considerations for it. And some of the issues for me that I weighed were, one, am I qualified? Do I have the knowledge and do I have the skills to be a good council member, to be a leader in the city? And what was most important to me was something that I've carried with me my entire life, which is a deep belief that to be a member of a community, is not simply a matter of living in that community, paying taxes and mowing your lawn in good order, but it really is being responsible to that community, to actually put yourself out there and to make an effort and to seek to work to help people so that we all are a flourishing community together. And so that is why I decided to do this. And in the months that I've been walking throughout the ward, I have been reaffirmed in that decision and impressed with my neighbors in Ward 5. I have found them to be interested people, and at the same time they are frustrated because their vision and their expertise are not necessarily given input into the city, and I am ready to change that. I want to be partners with people of our community so that we can flourish together. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce?
I also want to thank the League and thank you, Betty Ann King, for subbing, doing a fine job. I'm a really lucky guy. First of all, I want to tell you, I just love this place. I love this area. When I had the opportunity to move here about 15 years ago, I was offered the position at Channel 5 Television. I took it, I jumped at the chance because I knew what this area was all about. And I would talk to my peers at other TV stations and other places around the country, and they'd say, tell me a little bit about Plattsburgh. Like, why are you there? I'd say, you have no idea how beautiful this place is. If it was 10 degrees warmer, everyone would want to live here. So we don't want global warming, right? Listen, we've got the best backyard in America with the Adirondacks, with Lake Placid and the Olympic Village, skiing down there, the best view across to the Green Mountains, a world-class international city just to the north of us in Montreal, and then this fabulous lake, 110 miles long. It just knocks me out. So I'm thrilled to be here. The past 15 years have been wonderful for my family and me. And when we had the chance to move here, we chose Plattsburgh. We didn't choose to live in one of the towns surrounding here. We wanted to live in the city. It's been nothing but a fantastic opportunity for us. And when we came here, we decided to buy a house. Now, how many of you here own a house? A lot of you own a house. And when you buy a house, isn't it great? Because all you do is you buy it, and you move in, and it's all done, right? Nah, it doesn't work that way. You end up having to do some work on the kitchen, or the roof thing, or the driveway, and the bathroom, and the plumbing, and you know what I mean. The same thing's going on with our city of Plattsburgh. Yeah, we've got a lot of issues, but these aren't issues that we can't take care of. This is just called life. We have to deal with it. We've got to improve what we've got here. I feel like that's what we're all here to do. That's why you all are here, because you care enough about this. That's why I'm offering to run for city council, because I care about this stuff. And I'm optimistic that we can make a very positive difference. Just like I've been able to fix up the house, I think I can be part of the team that can help fix up the city. Thank you.
And now we have our questions from the audience. And the first question will begin with Becky, candidate number 1. What is your vision for the development on the waterfront?
Everyone has a vision for the development of the waterfront, and yet none of these have come to fruition for many years. I think that in respect to what I said in my opening remarks, I don't personally wish to impose a vision. I think that I have spoken to so many people who really do have a vision, and yet the way to implement a vision is to solicit the feedback of the community on that, and then to create a master strategic plan that responsibly integrates various elements of development so that one is not fighting against the other. So what we need is not to be behind closed doors coming up with deliberations that really forward a vision that belongs to one person, because the waterfront belongs to us all. And whatever it will be in the future, it will be for the future community. And so we need to open that up and take advantage of people who have the know-how and who have the expertise, and then put that together into serious planning so that whatever is developed is something that works for us, as unique as we are as Plattsburgh.
Bruce?
You know, I bumped into Mark Stater the other day, and many of you may know Mark. He's president of the Valcourt Sailing Club. And he said one of the most frustrating things for him is that while he loves to sail, he said, do you know how many people go out with me and they say this is the first time they've ever been on the water? He said, here we have a lakefront city, and most of the residents have never even gone out there. We need to change that. You know, I'm a little disappointed with where things are going right now. I think we've got to make a change. I agree with Becky, by the way, that having a long-term plan for all this is really what we're going to, that's the decision we're going to make, I believe. Specifically, however, I think the council is a little short-sighted in jumping on the NAV Tours proposal. I thought that the presentation made by John Ducat, who really understands marina management, was really thorough and well presented. And I would have, if I was a member, and if I'm so fortunate as to be a member in the future, I would really follow up with people like John, Andy Sager, Mark Stater, Chris Dooley, others. We have people in this community that really understand the marina thing. They understand it much better than I do. I have fields of expertise, but these folks really understand that. So I'd be working with those guys.
Thank you. And you will also be the first respondent for the next question.
Great.
If you could save money for the city, but it costs city worker jobs, would you do it?
In a word, yes. And the reason why is that we have to be thinking long-term. You know, we would all like to make short-term decisions that please everyone. As a candidate, that would be so attractive. If I could just look at you all and say, I'm going to do wonderful things. Here's the candy, let me give it to you. Unfortunately, I can't do that. I know that I'm going to be called upon to make very difficult decisions. Decisions that are unfortunately going to be popular with a few and probably unpopular with many others. My business background leads me to understand that dilemma, and I'm ready to make those kinds of decisions if I have to. They will be difficult, but I also understand if we're going to do things like afford a comprehensive master plan, these things cost money. We're going to have to find that money. That may ultimately cost a job. I hope not, but it could.
Becky?
I feel like that question is a trap because it poses false choices. There are other things to do, and if we get ourselves in a position where we are only left with laying off people, then that has been a failure of our responsibility to properly govern and to pay close attention to the budget and to find ways of generating more revenue. So if we come to that point, then I would say that I am responsible too if I'm on the council for getting us to that point. So it is a false choice if in fact we have a good council and a good mayor who really looks for ways to put us in a better position so that we are not in the position of laying off workers. And by the way, if we ever were to come to that point, then that would be a sad remark on our future because we would then be caught in an endless loop of losing services, laying off more people, and probably losing more revenue because the city would be an unattractive place to live in. So really, the answer to that is to start at the beginning and to do proper planning and proper budget management and to seek out more community development to generate more revenue.
Thank you. And you will also be first to answer this question. What makes you the right candidate for your ward?
I am a deliberate thinker. I don't rush to judgments quickly. My experience in the academy has led me to be very prudent and very careful. I research my issues. I think about them. I solicit input from other people. And so when I evaluate a situation, I do it carefully, and my decisions are based on that. And then I am willing to be accountable for my decisions, even when they're hard decisions. I know how to work with people. In my job and in my experience, I work with people from diverse backgrounds and interests and concerns every single day. It's my job to facilitate conversation and to find points of contact of interest, to find the common good in the conversations that we have. These are my skills. This is what I'm able to do. This is what I love to do. This is my passion. And I believe that that and those skills will make me a good counselor for the city.
Bruce?
I'm a very lucky guy. Excuse me. You know, I had the opportunity to become general sales manager for Channel 5 Television, owned by the Hearst Corporation, one of the biggest media companies in the world. They provided me with so much exposure, so much training. I'm so grateful for that. And that was a position I had to earn. I mean, I worked my way up in this business. I wasn't handed to me. I had to earn it, of course, you know that. I earned it because I had the people skills, I had the confidence, I received the training, and I was willing to use that. People describe me as thoughtful, and I appreciate that compliment. I also think that I understand that while we always would love to make short-term decisions, we must think long-term. We get into trouble when we make short-term decisions. Second, I'd say I'm very fortunate to have a lot of community involvement here. You know, I've been on the Red Cross board, I'm on the board of United Way, I'm president of my church. I do all these things because I love this community. So as a result of the experiences I've got, I think I'm pretty well prepared.
Okay. And you'll be first to answer this next question as well. Where do you see Plattsburgh in 5 years, and what will you do to help it get there?
Well, thanks for the question. First of all, there is no shortage of great ideas out there, but we have to seize on them. Really, the job of the counselor, I think, is not to come up with a million great ideas, although it's nice if we do, but they're all out there right now. Our job is going to be to facilitate those and try to make those happen. I'll just give you a couple quick examples. We've got folks here tonight who are concerned about safety, complete streets, safe streets, and more bike opportunities. You know, that's not just about safety, that's also about good business. So we need to grow our revenue in this city, otherwise we know we're going to continue to be a burden on the taxpayer, and that's not where any of us really want to be. I don't think any of the candidates really want to be there. But how are we going to improve the situation? We're going to have to make some tough decisions. One of those is, let's become more tourist friendly. It's good for business if we do this. When I look at the arts corridor, waterfront development, complete streets and bike safety, these are all adding up into quality of life issues that we have to work on if we're going to improve our economic climate.
5 years isn't a great deal of time to get a lot of things done. And if we're going to really do some planning, we have to do some strategic planning and assessment for the next 5 to 10 years. And so that means really looking at our infrastructure needs and as well as our personnel needs. And then we look at those, we understand what revenues we have right now. We receive input from the community in that planning as well. And then we start putting aside and parking lot those revenues that we need to address those other issues, infrastructure and so forth. This takes time because we have to try to look to the future and see what crises might arise for us. And then at the same time, we have to start thinking of vision, of what we want this city to be. So my biggest hope for the next 5 years is that we start actually planning and begin implementing a 5-year plan, looking to a 10-year plan, and so that we change the perspective of people in this community who unfortunately have often told me in the past couple of months that they feel that nothing ever changes year to year in Plattsburgh. Let's change that perception, get people energized, and let's get some stuff done.
Thank you. And now we come to the part where you get to ask each other a question. And candidate number 2, you have the first question. Yes, you get to ask Becky.
Ask a question, okay.
Please.
I recently took a tour of the Crate Center with Steve Peters, and you may be as familiar with it as I am. I mean, the roof is leaking, The floor is going to need to be replaced. The bathrooms are in horrible shape. The plumbing is bad. Wiring's not good. The parking lot needs to be resurfaced. We've got a real serious infrastructure issue with that space. What are we going to do about that?
Well, we're not going to simply just address the Crete Center, and I know that Steve has other issues with, say, the waterfront and beach property. And so there are a lot of things that we need to do with a lot of properties in this city, and a lot of those properties are in Ward 5. And so are we going to just put money into the Crete Center with it and ignore everything else? I hate to hammer this point home. You cannot isolate and pick and choose different projects, pour money into one, and then ignore how that affects what we're doing with other property. We need a comprehensive plan that does an assessment of all the properties that are not generating revenue or are falling apart or are costing us money, and then we prioritize them, and then we see what monies we have to address those and what possible revenue could be generated by fixing up those properties and bringing them really fully online. So it's all part of the same deal. You can't just cherry pick. You have to have a full understanding of what is out there and what we need, and then you begin to address it.
Thank you. And Becky, do you have a question for Bruce?
Sure. I know, Bruce, that you have walked the ward as I have, and one of the things that has really disturbed me and humbled me is that there is a real gap in the standard of living in our ward, and there is a tremendous amount of poverty, and quite frankly, I've been in a number of residences that I would consider substandard. And so with all of the development plans that you were talking about, how exactly do those translate to an improvement of the quality of life for people in our ward who really, I think, are often unseen and invisible to the rest of us?
Yeah, thanks, Becky. You and I agree on that. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you live in a really comfortable, posh area," and I said, "Well, you know, come walk Miller Street with me. Come walk Saley Ave." It can be really eye-opening to get out in the ward, and it's something I've really enjoyed doing, and yet it's also humbling. We're going to have to lift. I mean, we got to. Rising tide lifts all boats, so we've got to raise the tide here, and I think we're going to do better if we work regionally. If we just think about the city and say, well, we're going to go after this, and you've talked about this with planning, which, I'm with you on that. We're also going to have to work very closely with the town and with the county. We want to see our economy grow here. We want to see good things happen. And it isn't going to happen if we just look at the city and say, let's just make it happen here. We've got to have to think regionally. I think that's our best bet. The town is obviously creating a lot of good jobs. We're going to work with them, and we're going to work more closely, I think, with this next council and the next mayor.
Okay. And now it's time for the closing statements. And it looks like, Bruce, you have the first closing statement.
Okay, thanks. Well, thanks again for hosting this event, and it's a pleasure to be here. I just want to say, I think there's some things we can really do to make Plattsburgh a better place. The first thing is, we have to watch the money. If you don't watch the money, you don't get to do anything else. Any of you that have run an organization, you know what I'm talking about. If the budget gets out of control, and I was here a few years ago when the budget was out of control, that's a real problem. So our first responsibility as elected officials is we have to take care of the money. And then after that, listen, we've got essential city services that have to be delivered. Fire, water. I'll give you just one quick example. I met with a Department of Public Works worker the other day who said he just replaced a valve in our water system. He said, you want to know the date on that valve? 1880. 1880. You think we have some infrastructure issues we're going to have to deal with? Yeah, we've got some infrastructure issues we've got to deal with. So we're going to have to try to work on things like improving our infrastructure, delivering essential city services, and then we want to talk about growing our economy and raising our quality of life. There are real opportunities here for us to do that. We've talked about some of those tonight. I'm sure other candidates will as well. That's why things like arts and the waterfront development, that's why bike trails matter. That's why these things are so important. When I talk with folks, for example, the Chamber of Commerce, they would tell me that the most important thing the city can do is to grow tourism. That's our opportunity for economic development within the city. Do we want to just limit it at that? Of course we don't. That's why we want to think regionally, be working more closely with the town, more closely with the county, perhaps even with the state. We want to think regionally. So I think there are great opportunities for us. I'm pleased to say that with my business background, my community service background, my connection to the arts community, I feel like I'm in good shape to really do a good job. But it's humbling, folks. It's a pleasure to be here. It's humbling. I look forward to working for the city and doing the very best that I can for all of you. Thank you.
I don't really, yes, you can applaud him, it's okay. Bruce and I are okay with each other. And yeah, I would actually also like to thank Bruce. I think that we've had a good campaign, and I think that both of our hearts are in the right place, and we really do want to serve and do the best for our ward. I would like to say that I would like to answer my own question, if I can say something about that. I think that it's not enough to wait for a tide that we've seemed to have waited for quite some time in this city, and we don't really get strong tides on Lake Champlain. I think that we need to do a housing assessment. I really think we need to pay closer attention to our properties. It's not enough for me to hear someone say, well, the taxes are paid. Not when I've seen the conditions under which some people live, and not when I see some of the properties that are multi-million-dollar properties that really deface the city and are an absolute waste of our resources. If we can't pursue that, then all of our visions and all of our hopes for generating revenue, and I agree, increasing the art and music and downtown development, but people have to have something more to see of this city. And so I can tell you one thing, I will not take no for an answer. I can't promise the moon, and I can't promise that everything will change, but I can promise you, and anyone who knows me, go find them. I'm a very stubborn person, and I will continue to voice my concern, and I will look for different ways, because there is always something else that can be done. If we try to think creatively, if we seek the input of others and look at like municipalities that have encountered similar problems and try to find some ways of modeling our efforts, then we can make a difference, because every person counts. If you want to have a flourishing community, then everyone has to participate in that. Everyone has to join in and take responsibility. And that's exactly the kind of person that I would be for you on this council. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ward 5 candidate. And our next ward, Ward 5. I'm sorry. I'm never going to get this right. Ward 1. Maureen Carlo, Bill Ferris, and Rochelle Armstrong. And in drawing straws, we found that Rochelle Armstrong will have the first opening.
This is what democracy looks like. And thanks to the Women's League of Voters for providing such a valuable service to our community and nationwide. If any one of you has visited vote411.org, there's another terrific example of how voters can inform themselves. So I applaud your efforts. Excuse me. I moved to Plattsburgh with my husband and 2 daughters 32 years ago. I came from Southern California, where my parents were small business owners, and once I moved here to Plattsburgh, I thought I had seen paradise. I was not in any way, shape, or form regretful about leaving Southern California. We were very proud to have the opportunity to raise our children here, never look back to California. In fact, I believe that coming from Southern California gives me a special perspective on the direction that we might be going in this small community. I have a special perspective about growth. I started teaching. I retired 2 years ago, having taught at Beekmantown Middle School for 23 years. And as a matter of fact, Joshua Kretzer was one of my students. But I decided, I had an opportunity to spend some time with my grandchildren, and that just put me into a special place where I was looking ahead to the future and considering their future. And I decided that I really had a strong desire to make a better future for not only them, but for all children. And that is why I'm here this evening. I look forward to sharing my views.
Thank you. Bill, I believe you're next.
I'm going to lean a little bit.
Okay.
I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. I think this is a great way for all the candidates to get out there and express some of their views. I'm Bill. I'm in Ward 1. I've been married for 20 years to my wife, Kristen, from Riverview, New York. I have 4 children. I've been self-employed for the last 30 years, the last 12 years, as owner of Big Apple down in Durkee Street here in Plattsburgh. I'm also on the City Planning Board and a member of the Plattsburgh Downtown Business Association. I love Plattsburgh. When I moved to Plattsburgh about 28 years ago, as soon as I hit Route 3, I fell in love with Plattsburgh, and a week later I was living here, and I haven't looked back ever since. My wife and myself were fully vested in the city. We've owned property in the city for over 20 years now, and I'm looking at making a difference for our city and for our children. I have, like I said, 4 children. I have one that goes to Plattsburgh State, one that just graduated from high school, one in high school, and one in elementary school. As a community, we need to keep our excellent city services at peak performance. They're up there right now. We have some of the best services I've ever seen. We also need to protect our tax rates and protect our residents that are on fixed incomes so we don't have excessive taxes. We need to protect our waterfront and capitalize on its potential for revenue generation. Support creative ideas to increase our quality of life for the people that live here in the city. It'd be nice to be able to keep more of our youth here after they graduate from high school and college, be able to provide good jobs for them so they can stay in the area and raise their families and not move out of the area. Plattsburgh has many issues that need to be dealt with, and I'd like to help move our city forward more and address these issues and make Plattsburgh an even better place to live. Thank you.
Maureen?
Mind if I stand?
Not at all.
I know the acoustics in the room allow people to hear me when I whisper. Can you hear me in the back? Yes? Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and talk. Hi, good evening. My name is Maureen Carlo. I'm going to kind of continue with the theme and talk about myself and what brought me here. I went on a tour with Bruce recently to the beach, and I met with Steve Peters, and we were discussing the number of people that come into Plattsburgh from Canada to go to our beach, and it made me think that that is ultimately how I ended up here. My mom is a Montrealer. She moved here after coming up to Plattsburgh with her family from Montreal to go shopping and to go to the beach, and she met my dad here, who is a lifelong Plattsburgher until he retired and moved to Florida recently. So my family has raised me here in Plattsburgh. I grew up in Ward 1, and I left for a while after college, and I came back, and I'm back in Ward 1 as a homeowner. So I have a couple of generations of experience behind me in this area. When I moved into Ward 1 and bought a home in Lake Country Village, I heard a lot of animosity about things that were going on in the village and the difficulties that they were facing in running a 326-unit homeowners association. And I thought I was tired of hearing people complain, so I wanted to get involved and see if I could make a difference. And my dad said, Maureen, if you join the board, you're not going to make any friends. But I said, I have a lot of friends. I want to help. So I went into a board meeting and I asked if I could join the board, and they let me in. And that was 3 years ago, and I've since been making a big difference on the board in Lake Country Village. And I've been helping them grow, I've been helping them thrive, and I've been doing that at the same time as being involved in many other activities throughout the community, involved in the Chamber of Commerce, involved in the foundation at CVPH Medical Center, involved in all sorts of things that I come in, I believe in, I share my passion, I share my energy, I share my beliefs, and I try to grow and make better. And now it's time for me to try to make this city better. I live here again. I've had to leave 2 times for employment purposes since I bought my house, and I'm tired of doing that. I want to stay in Plattsburgh. I want to love being here. I want the people in my community to love being here, and I think I will come in and share my passion and my energy and my intelligence and tools that I've learned throughout my career, and I can make Plattsburgh a better place for all of us to live. Thank you.
A lot of this is going to be give and take for the fire department and the city. The city has a tight budget constraint. We don't have a bucket of money under the table that no one's dishing out. The money doesn't even belong to the councilors or the mayor. The money belongs to the city taxpayer. And the thing is, it's not about the fire department and it's not about the city. It's really about the taxpayer. And everyone has to give and take a little bit. A lot of these firemen, I know these guys. These are nice guys. They have houses in the city. They have parents that live in the city and other family members in the city. And it's not going to be easy. It may not be pretty, but you know, we're all in this together. We have to get along. We need our fire department. We need to pay them, but we also have a responsibility to the taxpayer. So it'll be tough. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be through negotiation and give and take on both sides. Thank you.
And Maureen, that is your question now.
I'll stay seated for this part. Well, I've spent a great amount of time with members of the fire department over the last several weeks, and I've been learning a lot about their side of the story. It could be a different side of the story that we read in the paper or that I hear about through leaders in the city. And whichever side of the story is the case, I think the important part is they want to be heard. They want to communicate and they want to know that people care about them, whether it be citizens, whether it be members of the council. They want to be able to have that conversation and feel as though they are being heard. So while I would love to give you an answer for how I'm going to personally solve this issue that's been going on for so long, I don't know all of the details yet because I'm not intimately involved at this point as much as I want to be. So my first step would be communicating and listening and participating in a dialogue with both sides of the story.
Thank you. Rochelle?
I agree that the firefighters really do feel underappreciated as a result of the nature of the negotiations and the fact that they had to go to arbitration. And it seems to me that looking at that process, the city unnecessarily had to pay litigation costs because no resolution was able to be achieved. In any negotiation, you have to go in with good faith, with respect and the ability to listen. Of course, we need to take into account efficiency, but if we work together and both sides realize that we're working for a better city, then I think we can accomplish a lot. We need to build this sense of the idea that we're working for a better city and to provide an excellent service while at the same time making sure that firefighters understand the value that we value their service.
Thank you. And now we are moving on. Bill? Sorry. All right. The next question, okay? I got to start again. What will you do to support the arts and entertainment opportunities recently brought by First Weekends and the Strand renovation? And that question goes to Maureen first.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I think that you brought up two things that are really becoming assets to our community. I love that First Weekend has been developed, and I love that it's getting attention and it's getting participation, and I can only hope that that will get better. I haven't personally attended any of their board meetings, but I have been out and been part of First Weekend every weekend that it's gone on. I will continue to do that, and I'd love to have some more conversations about how I can make it better with them. I think that the Strand, getting to that part of the conversation, is one of the best things to happen to our area in years, and it's only going to get better. I have been watching the development for years. I volunteered for a number of times at the Arts Center and at the Strand. I've worked with them as a client, and I think that we need to focus a lot of time and energy in making it better for our downtown community, for our economic development, and to bring tourists here to utilize it at the same time. That will grow our economic development.
Rochelle.
Well, these are all absolutely wonderful steps in the right direction. We all have something to be proud of. The Strand is a jewel in our city. I see the promotion of that in terms of what a city council can do. I think that our ideas about how to make an arts corridor and develop, nurture development through that area. And I think that a particularly good idea is to nurture entrepreneurship and small businesses. I know a wonderful friend of mine opened a shop there recently. She had a little bit of trouble getting started, didn't feel that the city was able to be so helpful. We need to, through our hopefully reinstated community development office, encourage more small business so that the arts can fully be developed and thrive downtown.
Betty Ann, can you read the question one more time, please?
Surely. What will you do to support the arts and entertainment opportunities recently brought by First Weekends and the Strand renovation?
Those almost go hand in hand. The First Weekends and the Strand, what it's doing is it's bringing people downtown. And Plattsburgh is unique in this area that we have a lot of different things going on in the arts and entertainment community. The Strand helping getting that refurbished and bringing people downtown for that and all the different events that will be happening there. The First Weekends getting more people to come downtown and participate in local businesses. Being part of the local Downtown Business Association, working with First Weekends, trying to drive more customers and people downtown for the arts and entertainment as well as local businesses downtown. It helps to bring people down, get things active, get things exciting, and push Plattsburgh forward in the arts community, and so people in the surrounding area will come here for art-related issues.
Thank you. And then one more question. Have you ever compared the level of service and tax rate budgets in Plattsburgh to other similarly situated cities around the United States?
Is that me?
Yes, it is.
I am. I would have to say that I have not looked into those statistics. I do know that I hear from those people I have visited, they have provided the comparison for me when they talk about their taxes compared to, those of their friends and family who live in outlying areas. There's a lot of concern on the part of our taxpayers about how their taxes seem out of proportion to them. I believe that there's a way to bring those costs, in proportion relative to the rest of the region by growing our tax base, making sure that we're looking for revenue streams that are viable. And I think another, very quickly, way to do it is to look at, in terms of school taxes, a way to fairly and equitably pay for a good education in our state by not putting the onus exactly right on our local taxpayers, distributing out that through the state.
Bill, would you like the question repeated?
Sure.
Okay. Have you ever compared the level of service and tax rate budgets in Plattsburgh to other similarly situated cities around the United States?
Okay. I have not personally compared them dollar for dollar. I know that many people that will leave New York State and leave Plattsburgh due to our high taxes. Now, there's a combination of taxes which gets kind of confusing for a lot of people because they know they pay about $40 per thousand of assessed value in taxes. Well, only actually $10 a thousand is about city taxes, $10 per thousand is county taxes, $20 per thousand is school taxes. So there are people that have houses, for example, worth $200,000 or $300,000 in Florida that might only pay $1,200 worth of taxes a year. Where here we're paying 12, 13, 14 and more hundred per month, which seems very high to me. I'm not sure what those states are doing. I know they have other income streams coming in as far as sales tax revenue and taxes on gasoline or whatever, but we do have a very high percentage of tax that we pay here in Plattsburgh.
And now we come, go ahead.
My turn. Can you please repeat the question?
Yes.
one more time now?
Have you ever compared the level of service and tax rate / budget in Plattsburgh to other similarly situated cities around the United States?
I will ditto what Bill said and say I cannot give dollar values for an actual comparison, but I can say that I have certainly discussed similar size and similar offerings to other locations, such as Barnstable County on the Cape, such as the Berkshires, where structure, department sizes are very similar to that of Plattsburgh. And seeing how they're run, seeing how they operate on the budgets they do, to most cost effectively run their departments to keep their taxes low, are something that I think should be a big focus of our area, because while our taxes are high, our property values are a lot lower than in those regions. And I think they obviously go hand in hand. I keep looking at my time, I'm about to get cut off. But I have looked into the operating budgets of other locations, and I think that if we operate better, our taxes will be reflected in that.
Okay, thank you. And now we come to the part where you get to ask each other questions. And Rochelle, you have the first opportunity to ask Bill and Maureen a question.
Thank you. I have spent a great deal of time, as I'm sure all of the candidates who are running for City Council have, about the question of growth. It seems to be the case that we're all considering ways in which we can move toward economic growth and development in Plattsburgh. I think a distinction in my campaign has been a sensitivity and a concern about how we will proceed in that development and at the same time be responsible and sustainable, particularly with regard to the environment. I believe, as perhaps it is a result of having been a person who lived in Southern California, I think that there can be some detrimental effects to growing, particularly without a well thought out plan. So I wonder what your thoughts are on our responsibility in balancing growth with protection of the environment.
Growth and protecting the environment. Well, we definitely don't want to do anything to damage our environment, because our environment is one of the main things we have going for us here with the lake and with the mountains and boating and fishing and everything else. But, you know, I know with the fishing tournaments that we were having, they found a few dead fish on the banks, and it was in the paper and on the news. And all of a sudden that tournament pulled out because they didn't want any bad press because of a few fish. There's dead fish along that lake shore all the time. And the fish that they found weren't even the fish that they were catching. for that particular tournament. So you have to be very careful when you throw mud on the wall saying, look what they did here and look what they did there. Wow, 15 seconds already. Responsible development, something that won't harm the environment, that's what everybody's looking for, and we really do need to pursue that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Maureen?
Thank you. I think that's a great question, and I think that's a concern to everybody these days. And I think that one of the big challenges that we face in the city of Plattsburgh is infrastructure. So while we need to grow the city responsibly, we also need to become more responsible and have infrastructure that is sustainable, that will help the environment at the same time. I think that we definitely need to be focusing on the lake, the events that we're bringing to the lake, whether they be windsurfing competitions or bass fishing competitions. They are bringing people here, and with the attention that we're getting for this, there could be some opportunities for us to really have grant money and offerings to us to make sure that the lake is as clean as it can be, and that the areas surrounding the boat docks are as maintained as they should be. But I think if we really start focusing on the overall infrastructure of the city, that will help us be a more sustainable environment.
Thank you. And the next person who gets to ask a question is you, Bill.
I'm curious what you both think about the development of the waterfront by the down by the Turtle, the boat launch. What do you think about development in that area?
Maureen?
Well, first of all, I think it looks more beautiful than ever. I took a tour recently, as I'm sure most of us have, with Mike Brody from the Department of Public Works, and I was commenting on that. And he said, yeah, that's great, but it requires a lot more work from my people. And he doesn't necessarily have the people and the budget to focus on that. But I think what they've been doing is absolutely wonderful, and I think a lot more can be done. I don't need to get into the headache of the parking lot, but I think something else that was brought to our attention regarding development down there came from a Department of Public Works worker who discussed a potential for bringing some recurring revenue streams to the city by putting in moorings for a boat launch. I think that's a great idea. I'd like to pursue those conversations and take it from there.
Thank you. Michelle?
I've attended the council meetings when, pardon me, the question of whether the Plattsburgh Boat Basin or NAV tours was brought up. I was also there when John Duquette, as Bruce mentioned, proposed the idea of the city marina, which really piqued my interest. I was impressed with the fact that Steve Peters had done his research and had looked at comparable city marinas in other places. I come from a place where city marinas are in operation. If they can bring revenue into the city, I think that's a wonderful thing. I hope that whatever we do with regard to our waterfront and the marina, that we have the proper planning in place that fits everything together in an integrated way. It's, as we said before, one of my colleagues said, we can't just in isolated fashion have projects. We have to be able to see how everything fits together in a comprehensive way.
Thank you.
All right, may I?
And now,
Okay. I thought a lot today about what I was going to ask this evening, and I'm going to go back to something that Mike Drew brought up when he was here earlier. I hope that all of you are able to take a look at the Press Republican when you leave tonight and read the article that was posted today about the alarming number of absentee ballots that have been made this year, have been applied for this year in the city of Plattsburgh, and especially in Ward 1, we've seen a huge number, about 130 actually, and that's about a 400% increase from the last election. And I want to know what you both think about that, what you know about it, and if you think that there's any kind of false activity going on in getting these applications to people who might not typically be voters in our ward.
okay, and that would be you, Michelle. Oh, I'm Rochelle, sorry.
Right. Well, now, you said you heard that 120 people had applied?
That's
Okay, we have 1,800, I believe, voters in our ward. In my activity in seeing folks, I can remember June in the Housing Authority, who had an excellent voting record, and I asked her, you know, gee, June, how you doing? Is it easy for you? She has a walker. She's, you know, she has an assistant, and she said, gee, you know, if I could have an absentee ballot, that would really be good. So I think that in some cases there are people who are haven't voted in the past, who are having the opportunity to vote, and that is a great thing. That's what our democracy should be built on.
Thank you. Bill?
And I am concerned about this. I was over at McGully Avenue 2 days ago talking to a friend of mine, and we were going to talk to some people that he knows. And I was talking to this one lady that lived over there, and she told me, oh, my friend got an absentee ballot yesterday. The guy brought it to her. And I says, oh, he dropped it off to her? No, he took it with him when he left. I'm like, he took it with him when he left? Yeah, he took it with him when he left. I'm like, oh, okay. So I think we're looking at more voter coercion and not actually delivering absentee ballots for the people that have a chance to vote. It's absentee ballots and voting for the person on their ballot. And I think that's what really concerns us, is that it's not really the person voting, it's the person delivering the ballot voting, then hand delivering it back to the Board of Elections.
Thank you. And now it is time for our closing remarks. And according to the straws drawn, that we have the first closing. I'm sorry.
I know I have the third.
Okay, the first closing would be you, Maureen.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm going to stand up for this too. First of all, I'm not trying to argue about people who want to vote. I want nothing more than for people to vote, and I'm more than willing to get people to the polls myself if they need a place to, a way to get down there and vote. I want to wrap this up by saying, in addition to my desire to help the city grow, I have helped the city in the past. I have worked as a communications consultant locally for many years, and it gave me an opportunity to get in and work with virtually every single department in the city of Plattsburgh. I was able to bring innovative solutions to their communications needs. I offered them better technology to get their jobs done. It allowed them to do more with less. It allowed them to get more work done out on the field and not be at their jobs, at their desks as much, because they were participating and collaborating and accomplishing things when they were out where they needed to be, and not sitting behind a desk just filling out some paperwork. I was able to do that and save the city thousands and thousands of dollars a year, working smarter, not working harder. I will continue to do this. I look forward to the opportunity to help the city on an ongoing basis, whether I'm in office or not, and I hope that I will be in office, and I ask for your vote in November. Thank you very much.
Bill?
One thing I like about Plattsburgh is Plattsburgh's a very convenient place to live. We have great schools and a great university and a community college. We have a pretty good quality of life. We have kind of like a big city shopping experience to some extent, where a lot of people come to us as the hub of the probably 3 counties to get stuff shopping for, but we really don't have like a lot of the big city crime and the big city problems that a big city would have. We have hiking, biking, boating, skiing. We have walking trails. We have a great arts community. We have lots of restaurants here. We got great medical care with our hospital and the cancer center and now the heart center and all that. I really feel that Plattsburgh is the jewel of the Adirondacks. And I just want to help Plattsburgh continue to grow and thrive in the upcoming years. Thank you.
Well, I have to say that running for Ward 1 Councilor has been one of the best experiences in my life. And I was completely ready to learn about the job, and the thing that has enabled me to learn the most is by talking to folks. It's been really a privilege to meet people, to hear about their concerns and their dreams for the city, and I've discovered that we share so much common ground, we have so many common goals. I really consider as a counselor that I would be a hands-on counselor, someone who listened, was responsive, and considered people's concerns and points of view. I think we need to be more inclusive in our government. We need to, invite people. That is why I have, actually from the very beginning decided that ward forums are appropriate. People need to hear from one another. They need to hear from their counselor. There needs to be an exchange. That's the basis of a good government. I'm also interested in furthering the development of our city. I want our growth to be responsible and sustainable, and for it to be integrated into a plan in which everyone has a say. And so I would appreciate your vote November 5th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen. It is unfortunate that Peter Ensel is not able to be here tonight. Peter's dad is very ill, and they're in the Albany area, and he's not able to return. But he did want everyone to know that he's very sorry that he was unable to make this event, but that soon he will be back in Ward 4 and he will be visiting your homes and answering your questions and working very hard for you. And I hope we all wish him well. I know we do, and we'll wait. We'll wait to see him with his energy back and to finish out the campaign. So, I guess there is no doubt as to who has the opening statements.
Go figure, it would be me. Well, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. It's excellent. I'm happy to see so many people here. First of all, I'd also like to say I'm sorry to see that Pete isn't here. I'm friends with Pete. I've golfed with his father. I know him pretty well. My daughter supervises his stepdaughter, so she's very familiar with what's going on. So I really hope and I wish Pete's dad would get a lot better. And I am too very sorry he's not here to sit by me and let you know a little bit about both of us. But I was born in the 4th Ward. I've lived in Plattsburgh all my life. I don't know if any candidate has been able to say that yet. My wife and I have 2 daughters and 1 beautiful granddaughter, along with a son-in-law. And they're in Albany. So back in May, well, actually, I've thought about running for council for a long time, but in our ward, I didn't want to go against a good friend of mine, who's actually now running for mayor, so he's opened the opportunity for me to represent the good citizens of 4th Ward. The 4th Ward is a unique place. It used to be called the home of the Mount Commerce. We have Marons, we got the 4th Ward. You know, it's really interesting why I decided to run. Because when I was in Ward, well, the wards have changed, so I believe it was Ward 3, I did not feel like I was represented. But I'm here to represent the good citizens of Ward 4, and I'm sure I can do that in the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have a few questions for you.
Very good. Can I get like 3 minutes instead, or 4 minutes? Can I answer for Pete?
Sure. Our city police officers work long shifts and spend only a short, this is difficult to read, spend only less than 20 weeks in academy training. How can you, as a counselor, help support our police and make sure they keep up to date in their training throughout their career?
Training is important. From 1979 to 1988, I was a deputy sheriff. Didn't get as much training as I thought I should have had. I got correctional training, but did not get any police training. I think our police force need to be updated. Every year or every 2 years, there are mandates that you have to follow. I'm sure you do. You have to take the DWI course and how to read the breathalyzer test. So everybody needs training, but sometimes you get too trained out. Our police force is excellent. Our fire department is excellent. And every department in our city is run really well and have good workers in those departments. So it's just a hats off to all our departments here in the city, not just the police department.
Okay. Everyone seems to complain about taxes, and we know that our taxes are for good government. What would you want to implement if funds were available?
Available for what? That's an open question. I really, funds available for the city, for the ward,
For the
for all
city as a
taxpayers?
whole, yes.
Well, I think if anybody can get any tax break, it would be really nice. I've had a lot of people express some interest and ideas when I've been going door to door. So, I'm not really that much on the taxes, but I would like to keep taxes down to a minimum. Actually, a couple of our mayoral candidates expressed some interesting statements to the group last week at the American Legion, and says if taxes go up, then we got to cut down that same amount and that same percentage. So I think in order to do that, if we get more funds, then we wouldn't have to cut out so many different kind of services that we have.
And would you support a citywide adoption of complete streets?
Definitely. Again, I was a deputy sheriff. I worked at the Department of Corrections. I take my bike and I ride it all over the city. I walk my ward, I walk the city. I think it's a travesty to try to take your bike and go down North Margaret Street. It's hard to do it. I just went down there today and I saw a father giving his 3-year-old daughter a ride in a little cart on a bicycle, and they're in the road. So I think the fine people that are putting out all these efforts are doing an excellent job. Unfortunately, in the city of Plattsburgh, and I was really disturbed about when people go to the the common council meetings, they're limited to 5 minutes to talk. Not fair. I think that needs to change. So there's a lot of things that I'd be concerned about.
Okay, thank you. And in your opinion, will the compost plant reopen?
In my opinion, will it reopen? I have no opinion on that. I'm not too well aware of that. I hope it does. I mean, we need something to take care of. Anywhere that you go in the city, you can have a different smell. And it's not fair. It's not fair to the West End people. It's not fair to the South End people. It's not fair to the whole entire city. So I'm whatever's best for the city and whatever's best for the citizens of Plattsburgh, I'm for it.
Okay. And if you could save money for the city, but it costs a city worker job, would you do it?
Glad you asked that. I have a lot of friends and a lot of associates that are working without a contract. I've worked without a contract. I've gotten furloughed. I've gotten money taken away from me, and I don't like that, and I didn't like that. So I think what our city needs to do is let all of our workers know that they're appreciated, like other people have said earlier, that we have ears ready to listen to them. We as council people, we do not negotiate. Thanks to Chris Jackson, let me know that. The mayor negotiates. So if you didn't know that, like I didn't know that, you know that now. I think that should be brought out to everybody. That if we could listen to the people and understand their concerns and really dig down deep to work together and be a people's city, then I think we're going to be successful in all those negotiations and all those. I don't want to fire anybody, because I was almost canned quite a few times working for the state. If anybody's worked for the state, they know where I'm coming from.
Thank you. And Mr. O'Connell, what would your question have been for Peter?
Well, I knew he wasn't coming. And I told him a couple weeks ago I wasn't going to have one for him. And I don't have one for him now, because I'm a man of my word. And it wouldn't be fair to Peter.
And would you like to give us a 2-minute sum up, please?
Yes, I guess I can. Summing up, I've been all over our ward, all over our city. I'm pretty well known. I've been asked why they call me Crusher, why I put it on the ballot, because I listen to people. I listen to people who know what they're talking about. I listen to people who have faith and confidence in me. If you can't do that, you can't be a successful counselor in the city of Plattsburgh or anywhere else. So I think I'm a good communicator. I was a head football coach for a lot of years. I was successful. One year we won a championship, but I was only as successful as my staff. That's the way city government should be. You have a mayor, the mayor will be successful with its councilors, its department heads, and then the citizens who actually execute that game plan. We've heard a lot about game plans, we've heard a lot about visions, we've heard a lot about technical words that I never heard of before I started getting involved in this in May. The bottom line is we have to represent our ward and represent our city to the best of our ability, and we have to do it together. We can't be a yes man. We have to be able to share our opinions and then give in when it needs to be given in. And last thing, vote Paul Crusher O'Connell on November 5th, because he can do the job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connell. Sure. Ward 6, thank you. Mr. Wimett is not with us this evening, but we have Mr. Kretzer and Mr. Jackson. And Mr. Jackson, you have the opening statement.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, as everyone else
Is
has.
your mic on over here?
Hello? Better? I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event, and I'm happy that there's such a good turnout. With the potential for an entirely new city government being elected, the voters need to be informed, and I'm glad everybody's here. There's been a lot of talk during this campaign about vision and opportunities, and I just wanted to give you a couple of opportunities and things that I've done as a city councilor in the past. I was the lead person who negotiated a contract or a memorandum of understanding with SUNY Plattsburgh. SUNY Plattsburgh now contributes $21,500 a year, and they will continue to do that for the next 15 years. It was a 20-year agreement. That money is being put into a dedicated fund for the purchase of an aerial. So that will defray about half the cost of that fire truck from the taxpayers. Another thing that I've done as a member of the Budget Committee, I went down to New York City. We went and met with Moody's and Standard & Poor's, and we advocated and received a bond rating increase. And what that did was it will save the city over many years, hundreds of thousands and potentially millions of dollars in interest on our capital debt. As a member of the council, we've also, there were two major issues that previous councils deferred on. We took care of. We have the water tanks that we built. They were federally mandated, and we also reclosed the Akey landfill, so we're no longer in DEC can no longer fine us for that. So those are some of the visions and opportunity things that I've done as a member of the City Council. I have 5 priority items that I would like to move forward with this next term. The first is to continue the establishment of budgets and utility rates that are affordable, develop an implementation of water source and supply plans, modernization and implementation of information technology for the city departments, negotiation of union contracts so that future budget planning is possible and predictable, and the development of a master plan for the city. Now, as Mr. O'Connell said, and as I told him, we do not negotiate the contracts, the councilors don't, the mayor does. But I think with my years of experience and understanding how things work, that I will be able to help educate the unions on what we can and can't afford. So those are the things that I'm interested in talking about, and I look forward to your questions.
Joshua?
Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Kretzer, and I'm running for a seat in the Common Council for Ward 6. First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women's Voters for putting on this organized event for us this evening. I'd also like to thank all of you for being here to be a process of our political process here in the North Country. I'd like to start off just by saying I was born here at CDPH Medical Center. Parents David and Marilyn Kretzer. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for that. I attended Beekmantown Central School from kindergarten through grade 12, where I was active in student government, as well as the arts and also interscholastic athletics. Following high school, I attended Nazareth College of Rochester, where I majored in music therapy, followed by a move to New York City, where I majored in interior design at the Fashion Institute of Technology. While living in Manhattan, I became actually an advocate for tenant rights, where I formed a tenants association for myself and my fellow neighbors. I worked with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, meeting the needs of those tenants, solving issues, having repairs done, which probably otherwise wouldn't have been done as quickly as they were. After spending a decade living and working in Manhattan, I decided to return to my roots in the North Country, to be close to my parents and my brother Ty, who had already returned home from California to start his family. Of all the places I could have chosen to live in the world, I chose to came back to the North Country to be close to my family, and also decided to become involved with local action initiatives to affect change and broaden the North Country's vision towards the future. Since returning home, I've served as a member of the board of directors for the Plattsburgh Rotary Club, also the Plattsburgh Roller Derby League, and I currently serve on the steering committee for Vision to Action, where I also serve as the chair of the Arts in Clinton County Task Force. I'm a member of the Plattsburgh Downtown Association. I serve on the special events committees for both CDPH and the Clinton Community College Foundations. And I also serve as an ambassador for the North Country Chamber of Commerce, with whom I've been collaborating on 3 very exciting initiatives to help bring tourism to our area. This is exactly the kind of investment in Plattsburgh's social capital that Ward 6 needs on the Common Council. I've been endorsed by the Democrats and the Working Families parties, and I'm appealing to all voters in Ward 6 to form a common bond with my existing supporters to build a better future for us here in Plattsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we come to the audience questions. And the first question is for you, Josh. How would you support initiatives to stimulate new family-friendly businesses in the downtown areas?
New family-friendly businesses. Well, I think that our downtown already has a thriving local business community offering a number of great stores and opportunities for families. You know, the addition of a yarn shop on Brinkerhoff Street has been great, offering classes both for families, you know, young people and older people alike. I'm also a very strong opponent of some permanent street closures in downtown, where we can not only have these thriving local businesses, but also attract national retailers that would sit right alongside these businesses, offering, you know, a myriad of different services, you know, to help stimulate both the young people's minds, bodies, and souls, and those of older people and residents who plan on being here for the duration.
Thank you. Chris?
I think that the biggest opportunity really is in the existing building infrastructure we have currently there, especially Clinton Street and the Riverview Mall. I think that it would be great to have family-oriented businesses come in and open up shops and have, you know, be creative in their ideas. I would fully support that. That's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Another question from the audience. Josh? Excuse me? No, not according to this, not this time. We rotate. We rotate. Yes. No, it's because there were 3.
Chris, why don't you answer?
What's the question?
Okay. Please discuss the bar scene.
The what?
The bar scene.
The bar scene? You mean Are you I'm assuming they're talking about the downtown bar scene, which is.
I'm assuming that that's what this refers to. Yes.
You know, it's very college oriented. There are some restaurants that have good bars. You know, like Iris's. You also have restaurants. You have Arnie's. You have Iris's. The bar scene. The college bar scene, I haven't been in, so I can't really tell you.
I think perhaps the insinuation was that maybe there are many of them. I'm not sure.
Well, obviously, SUNY Plattsburgh and Clinton Community College are a major driving economic force in our area, and the students like to go out and have a good time after they work hard. I think we all enjoy, you know, playing hard, working hard and playing hard. You know, there are a number of bars that cater to the college students. I think a lot of them in the past years through development and improvements have become a little more appealing to not only college students but to adults alike. You know, we do have some great restaurants, and for a very small, like relatively small metropolitan area, a lot of opportunities for, you know, different cuisine. We also have some opportunities with vacant storefronts where it would be great if we had, you know, something more metropolitan, you know, something more of a lounge feel, something comfortable that you could go to, you know, either before or directly after a performance at the Strand Theater.
Thank you. And now, Josh, you do get this question first.
I'll take it.
How do you feel about blocking off city streets to special interests such as City Hall restaurants, special interest group marches?
I'm a very strong proponent of downtown. You know, there's plenty of access to downtown via different routes. And like I said earlier, I'm a strong proponent of closures downtown, permanent closures, that would give us the opportunity to have festivals, to make downtown a destination, to also, like I said, attract national retailers, to sit right alongside our already thriving local businesses. That's what's going to attract tourism, what's going to attract national retailers, and also people to put in permanent lodging downtown, which is something we need. So once we have the infrastructure of commerce, we'll be able to attract those businesses. And also, you know, downtown Plattsburgh and Margaret Street used to be a hub for retail shopping. I think that it will be again. I know it will be again. And it's an exciting time, and I look forward to being part of the process.
I've actually always supported closure of City Hall Place for festivals and festivities. I've supported the Irises and other restaurants having the parking spaces blocked off. I'm not in favor of permanently closing any streets downtown. It's very hard to get around, and if you say you get rid of Upper Bridge Street, you create a T intersection that's just going to push traffic onto Broad Street and over to Cornelia Street. But I've always been in favor of offering the parking spots for the restaurants and closing city streets for festivals. I don't have any problem with it.
And this, one more question. Chris, what negotiating skills do you feel you have that qualifies you to negotiate with unions?
Well, as I've said, the city council does not negotiate with the unions. The mayor negotiates with the unions, or the mayor's representative, but it's not the city council's job to negotiate with unions. It's their job to ratify contracts. Now, that being said, I have been around and I've been a city councilor for 6 years, and I've seen how poor negotiations are done, and I think that there are definitely ways that it can be done better. What you have to do is educate the unions and explain to them the limitations of the tax cap and how the funds work and what we are actually able to afford with the tax cap.
Joshua?
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Yes. What negotiating skills do you believe you have that would allow you to negotiate with unions?
Negotiating is a very difficult art, one which I feel that I've gained a lot of experience just through community action groups here, also in New York City, where I lived for a decade. So much of negotiation involves listening. You have to be able to listen to everyone's argument. It's difficult to be unbiased sometimes, but you have to be able to really take in what's being given to you, look at it in an unbiased way, and then formulate your decision. And I look forward to working with the council and the mayor, even though we may not be the deciding factor, but being each other's support system in making those hard decisions when it comes to negotiations.
Thank you. And now we come to the part in the program where you get to ask each other a question. And Josh, you may ask the question that you have for Chris, please.
Certainly. Chris, throughout this entire campaigning process, I've really enjoyed walking door to door, meeting nearly all the voters in Ward 6, and finding out what their questions and concerns are for our area. There are a few concerns which I keep hearing over and over again. A few examples are that taxes are too high. There's a lack of support for the arts, questionable quality of service, and stagnant community development. Tell me, Chris, why would people in Ward 6 vote for an incumbent who has a history tied to a council with a lack of vision and action toward progress?
Well, and I'm going to pick off your list one by one. First of all, taxes are high, but since I've been in office, taxes have only risen 6.33%, and we've maintained a much more stable tax rate than ever happened in the 7 years prior to my being in office. Can you give them to me one at a time?
Well, I guess oops. Hello? Sorry. Go ahead. Well, the question was, why would people in Ward 6 vote for an incumbent who has a history tied to a council with a lack of vision and action toward progress?
Well, I did vote in favor of North Country Cultural Center for the Arts getting the building. I have been through the Strand. When Janine was the executive director, I walked through the Strand. You said something about poor city services, which I don't agree with. And actually, I think that my experience and being able to keep taxes down and my understanding of how the budget works and how finances work in the city of Plattsburgh is imperative, because all the big ideas that everybody wants to talk about have to be paid for, and the only way they can be paid for is with people like me who understand how the budgets work and how to generate revenue or cut expenses without cutting essential city services.
And now we come to the part of the program where
Oh, no, I get to ask a question.
Sorry?
I get to ask a question.
Okay, yes you do.
So there was a question earlier for other counselors, and it was, what makes you think that you're a better choice than I am for city council? Actually, Mr. Wimet's not here, so I guess no matter what, we're both better. But
Fair enough. Like I said before, I've been entrenched in community involvement, service action groups since I've returned back to the North Country. I have worked with people from all parties on boards and around tables with people who have different opinions than I do. But because of the way I'm able to listen, prioritize, and honestly, I think to friends and family of mine who oftentimes come to me when they have problems or issues, and they come to me, I think, because I am able to listen, and although I may love them, care for them, or have a lot in my heart for them, I'm able to do things in an unbiased way, with an open mind, and with a willingness to always listen and communicate.
Now it's time for closing statements. And Josh, you have the first closing statement.
Thank you so much. Again, I'd really like to thank the League of Women's Voters for putting this event on for us, and again, thank you all for coming. I am so excited to be back here in Plattsburgh. I love Plattsburgh. Like I said, I grew up in Beekmantown. I have my family, I have friends in the audience. For all of you, I hope that and I know that I will be able to make changes here that we can all be proud of and excited for in the future. It's a very exciting time, and I look forward to representing Ward 6 as your representative for Common Council. Also, there was an article in the Press Republican yesterday about road signs, and it seems that everyone is enraged with road signs, and I've had friends that are Republicans, Democrats, and Independents tell me, the number of road signs that have been stolen on every block in every part of the city. And I actually had a good friend call me today saying they saw a green minivan loading my road signs into their vehicle. So just everyone be on the lookout for a green minivan and just make sure you know what they're doing, because they may be doing what you want, but those road signs are expensive.
I drive a silver Toyota pickup. Not me. You know, I had a whole written statement here. I'm going to tell you, I am running as an independent. My party's called Experience Matters. I announced very early on that I wasn't going to run for council, but I never consulted with my brethren counselors on who was going to do what. And I assumed that Mark Tiffer would be back, and Tim Carpenter would be back, and Chris Case would be back. And I knew George was term limited. And when I found out first Mark was running, then what happened to Tim happened to Tim. Chris Case decided not to run. Jim Callanan decided to run for mayor. I've worked damn hard for the last 6 years to make sure that this city is affordable and the services that people get are sufficient and actually outstanding. And I got back into this race because I didn't want to see my 6 years of hard work change on a dime. All you have to do is look back into the early 2000s when you had a vision mayor who ran the city finances into the ground. I think you need strong financial understanding of how the budget works in this city, and that's the only way we're going to be able to keep it affordable and keep it prospering. And please vote for me on the Experience Matters line on November 5th. I'm Chris Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So our Ward 3 council candidates, of course, are Dale Dowdle and Justin Meyer. And according to the straws drawn, Justin, you will have the first opening statement.
Thank you very much. And I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this event. And I want to thank you folks for coming out. The city of Plattsburgh is a great place to live. I grew up here. My family's lived here. My family's operated businesses here. I returned to the city. My wife and I are raising our family here. I've been practicing law in the city for about 7 years. I have some experience in front of Judge Clute, and I have to say tonight is a little less daunting than when I first appeared before her 7 years ago. One of the things I've heard from just about all the folks I've talked to is how the high property taxes affect the city of Plattsburgh. Everybody seems to realize that the property taxes pay for services in the city. And I think everybody understands that the services that the city provides are provided that the workers provide services in a wonderful manner. We've got the only paid fire department in the area. We have the only police department, aside from the county sheriff and the state police, and both the police and fire department do an excellent job. Other city departments have had a difficult time. Many of the workers don't have contracts right now. That's extremely unfair. Number one, the city needs to know what to expect in developing budgets. And number two, the city employees should know what to expect so that they can set their own budget and their household budget. It's easy for the city council and the mayor to point to the unions and the employees as a reason for the high property taxes and the budget constraints that's placed on the city. But the fact of the matter is the city simply can't operate without city employees and city departments and the union members who are employed in those departments.
Yes, thank you. Again, I would like to thank you, especially your spirit of volunteerism, and I'd like to thank the audience for volunteering about the past 2.5 hours for being here tonight. So you're also volunteers as well. In 1979, I finished Plattsburgh State and never really went home. Although I'm not from Southern California, I'm from Dannemora, so that relocation is not such quite as notable. That same year I was married, my wife and I decided we would live in Plattsburgh. We looked at about 54 houses in the area. We ended up both commuting to Dannemora. We didn't actually ride together for the sake of the children and their shifts, but relocation never occurred to us. We have since stayed here. We have one daughter who was returned, who was never going to live in Plattsburgh, but she came back from the South. She's married, and fortunately we have 2 grandchildren here. My youngest daughter lives in New York City, determined never to come back, but I'm working on it. I sat here tonight thinking what I was going to say. You may have seen me fidgeting in the seat over there. I loved the questions that were asked tonight. I was ready to answer them. I hope I can answer the questions that are coming my way tonight, and not all the good ones are gone. I'm very proud of Plattsburgh. I would say about 5 years ago, I reconnected with my cousins from Auburn, New York. This might piggyback on the question, have I ever compared it to another city, that was asked earlier. It's of a similar size. 25 years ago, when the thought of relocation did occur to Auburn, they were at a tax rate of $40 a thousand then. The most expensive house in Auburn, New York was probably $98,000. Where their tax is now, I don't know. I have a brother-in-law who comes from an affluent community just south of Boston. He comes home 2 weeks, loves it here. He says their town never does half of what Plattsburgh does. They like being here. I have a friend who recently retired to North Carolina, basically to get away from the New York state taxes. However, the taxes down there have not, income tax, it's a wash. I'm very proud to be here, and I intend to stay here. I'm on my 2nd house in Ward 3, and again, I hope to represent the people. Thank you.
And the first question will be for you, Justin. What do you consider the most important challenge facing the city in the next 3 years?
Well, I think responsible development is probably the most difficult challenge facing the city. In order to develop the city responsibly, we need to attract businesses, we need to rein in spending, and we need to continue to provide services to the city. That's going to be a challenge. I think looking to the city departments and the employees in the departments to come up with ways to operate those departments more efficiently will go a long way. I think providing incentives and opportunities and services like the development office is something that will go a long way to attracting businesses. And I think maintaining the infrastructure is something that the city needs to do. I think it's something that the city needs to have a long-term plan for, and I think it's something that can be done much better.
Thank you.
Okay, most challenging. I have about 20 answers to that. Let me choose one or two. Public safety. I think that's the #1 responsibility. Public safety goes from your fire and police department right down to the school crossing guard, right down to the dog control. Sewage, public works, it all attributes and goes towards public safety. Also, I think we need to encourage the several grassroots efforts that have been going on. We have the Vision to Action. We have the First Weekend Group that started as a group of people wanting to do things downtown. They're now a nonprofit corporation. I would like to see that continue. The Strand, I think, is a perfect scale for the city of Plattsburgh. It proved that it can happen. They didn't go too big. They went just for the right size. The Arts Corridor, we have PASS, which is the Plattsburgh Acquiring Safe Streets. That's a group of citizens who got together. None of these had government or political involvements, and look where they are today. I would like to encourage that growth.
Thank you. And you get to answer the next question.
All right,
first.
thank you.
Okay. What effect, if any, do you expect Governor Cuomo's tax-free New York program to have on our city?
Because we are located in a SUNY system. I don't know. The growth in the city, there's not a lot of land left. There's a few spots. There's 14 acres off Boynton Avenue. There's a few undeveloped. As we heard from the college, we're up against the Saranac River. It would have to be related to the actual SUNY system, a spinoff where in Albany the nanotech was able to establish there because they had the science. I actually don't see it contributing that much to the city of Plattsburgh.
Okay, thank you.
If this program is implemented and has the effect it was intended to have, it's going to be able to foster cooperation between the students and employees at SUNY Plattsburgh and the community. And I think exploiting SUNY Plattsburgh and making that impact the community more and provide more benefit to the community can only help. SUNY Plattsburgh is an excellent resource. It's something that I'm proud to have in Ward 3, and it's a group of people I look forward to representing.
Okay. And now, the next question. Justin, you will have the first response. Do you think that the city should stop collecting trash or supplying electricity, and that those services should be given to private companies instead?
Well, I would say nothing is off the table. I think the city needs to look at what's available, what the costs are, what the benefit to the city is, if doing those things are cost effective. Number one, in speaking to people in Ward 3, I've learned that a lot of people value the city trash pickup. They don't want that to end. I think that is a profitable venture for the city, and if it is, and if it has the effect of keeping taxes down, that's certainly something that should stay in place. The electricity, I think, is another thing that other places envy the city of Plattsburgh, and the fact that we have our own electrical service provider and that our rates are as low as they are. So I think we need to look at those things and determine their costs and the benefit they have on the community, and then we can make a decision as to whether or not whether or not they should remain.
Mr. Dowdle?
Having been an attendee of the Common Council meetings, not just recently, but for several years, this question came up about trash collection. I can recall it was a few years ago. I then heard the explanation that it was basically self-supporting. Now that there is a little more competition within the city of Plattsburgh with other refuse collectors, I don't know where it stands at this point. I do enjoy the service. They go beyond, they'll pick up leaves, they'll pick up brush, anything that you've put by the curb where others may not. Utilities, I've heard interest throughout the ward. Having spoken to probably over 600 people, there is an interest in gas line. For different reasons, I don't think people would want to give up their own municipal lighting. We think back to the ice storm. Well, fortunately, we were in the city of Plattsburgh for that.
Thank you. And now we are at the part of the program where you may ask each other a question. And so, what question would you like to ask your challenger, Justin?
Mr. Dowdle, when I've been walking around Ward 3, as a matter of fact, last night I knocked on somebody's door, and they said they had spoken to you about a week or so before, and they asked you a question about the fire department, what your thoughts were on the fire department. They said your response was, do you mean the fire department or the union at the fire department? And I'd just like you to clarify what you meant by that.
Yes, yes, and I can probably tell you whose house that was. I believe it was the house of the fire. Because, actually, I'll break it down into three. We have the fire department, the firefighters, and the union. The media tells us, and basically we're all at the mercy of the media, as we are tonight, where we are educated. I haven't heard any complaints about the actual performance of the firefighters or the fire department. The fire department itself needs, I mean, they're getting an aerial, a pumper, they probably need a new station. The union tends to get the media's attention, and I'm not sure, I've only heard one side. I engaged with this individual as well. I'd be anxious to learn more about it. And see where they're at, because that's where the union basically is what we're hearing in the media. It's not the fire department, it's the fire union.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a question for Justin?
Yes, it's along that same line, Justin. At the time of your primary, you indicated you had spoken to several people, and one of the goals, I believe, was to improve the relationship with the fire department. How would you intend to do that?
Well, initially, I think we need to have an open line of communication, not only with the fire department, but with all city unions. You've heard a couple of folks here tonight say that the council doesn't negotiate with unions and union contracts. That doesn't mean the council can't communicate with unions and have communications about union contracts. I think that's something that should be done. I think the council is responsible to the voters, particularly in their wards, and I think they have an obligation to represent their voters and their residents in dealing not only with the fire department, but with all unions in the city.
Thank you. And now it is time for the closing statements. And Mr. Dowdle, you will close first.
Yes, thank you. Justin, I feel like we've been on a Voice episode. We came out to duet, and now we're going to get judged. For those of you who follow the show. In the beginning of the campaign, some of my concerns were everybody had vision, and that is not a negative concern, but nobody was talking about the here and now. There's still a city to run. There's still a lot of unresolved issues. But as the campaigns have gone on, I'm hearing more about it, which pleases me. A lot of people are thinking big. I can think small. There's a lot of small things I'd like to do with the city of Plattsburgh. One of the areas I would like to work with is the building inspector's office. They're presently at a 35-hour week. They can't even explain why they're at 35 hours, because when everybody's at 35, they all went to 40. I think with the new development, the 88 apartments on the outside of town, the 64 coming to the town of Plattsburgh, there are homeowners and rental owners concerned about what's going to happen to their property. I am too. I don't know who they'll rent to. What will become of that? We need to have more building inspectors on the scene. I don't think we need to add to staff. We can work with the staff that we have, but we can add to their hours. Yes, it would cost, but it would save us in the long run. 10 hours of one of those inspectors is the community development office. If we could take that responsibility away from the building inspector's office as well, I think that would be one direction to go. That's pretty much one area I'd like to work with. There's a lot of small things that can be done in the city of Plattsburgh.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that we need to focus on going forward is downtown Plattsburgh and revitalizing downtown. I can't say I remember downtown in its heyday, but I can tell you my grandfather operated a business downtown, my father operated a business downtown, and I remember spending a whole lot of time downtown as a kid. I can remember sitting in the Strand Theater when I was 6 years old with my grandparents watching the movie An American Tale. I'm now involved with the North Country Cultural Center for the Arts. I'm involved in the Strand Theater restoration. And I can tell you that the Strand is a great example of people in the community working together towards a common goal. I don't know if you've been in the Strand, but you ought to go in there and take a look. It's incredible. Beyond that, things like First Weekends, those have been incredible. My brother is a musician. He's played at First Weekends. Just walking down there and seeing the number of people who've enjoyed downtown, seeing the businesses thriving, the restaurants are packed. It's incredible, and it really is something that should continue. The city of Plattsburgh should focus on having more events like that, and the organizers of First Weekends and the city councilors and the mayor who made that possible should be commended. Thank you. And vote Justin Meyer on November 5th. Thank you.